Come over here. Guess that won't work. Okay. Wonders of streaming. Nothing seems to want to work the way it's supposed to. Lots of small projects tonight. Simple kind. First order of business is make some pieces round. This is some spalted maple. Some hard bits down here at this end. Kind of piece has kind of the grain going multiple directions. Should come out looking pretty neat, maybe. Got a little area that's not quite round. Just more interested in seeing what we're looking at. Pretty neat. Now the real question, how long is it? Exactly 6 inches. Can I cheat? I'm going to try, I think. We'll split it in half. Try and get 2 little weed pots out of that. At least that sounds like a good plan. Whether it works or not, we'll find out here very shortly. Put a little tenon on each end. Get rid of the extra sharp edge. Center line's going to be there. We'll use a really small parting tool so that we don't lose any more material than we have to. And as usual, we're not going the whole way through, for sure. for 30 seconds it takes to cut it off, much safer. So there's one ready, or two ready, really. While I'm in that mode, we're going to get another one ready because I have another piece of this spalted maple. And it's just kind of long enough to do weed pots. Although I do have some that's a little bit longer, but this is where we're going from here. Center punch both ends. And this end. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So wait till we get it round. Figure out which end we're going to put a tenon on. Tool rests fairly close, pretty close. Corners go away pretty quick. Speed we start down a little slow, bringing up to what I'm comfortable with. Still not quite there. I'm glad you're watching that. I thought it was on earlier. I saw it on there as a YouTube. So, shoot. I could rather keep as much of that as I can. So I think we'll put our tenon on down here and make it up there. Get rid of the sharp edges. So that's three of them ready. I think that's as far as we're going to go with them. More weed pots. Couple more weed pots. I got a whole bunch of material that I cut up, so couple more weed pots, more trees. Been a selling kind of a week for us. Weed pots are definitely a very good market for them for some reason. So we'll keep making them. Keep my daughter entertained making all the flowers. This stuff usually can be a bit of a challenge to work with because it's, you can see right there, even using the skew, it's lifting some grain. So that's always a bit of a challenge for them with it. I wasn't necessarily being overly nice to it either, so that could have a problem, part of the problem. Also looks like I should maybe retrue that one a little bit. Also didn't get it in the chuck quite as well as I should have. Doesn't look like it. Looks like that's the case. Was in between center, so I'll just loosen it back up, put the live center back in the hole that it was in, and that should put it back where it was. Thereabouts. Not perfect, but it's okay. But lots of material to cut off of it, so doesn't sound like that's cutting it overly cleanly either. Not really. Let's see where that camera's at. That looks alright. Since we're working down here, I'll show you what we're doing. Just a little bit of a concave in there. Nice and slow. See whether we're tearing up end grain. They're still a little bit torn up. Maybe a little lighter cut. A little more speed. Probably didn't help. Better, but it's still lifting some up. I'm gonna move on at this point. Probably go back and recut that some more. Give it a chamfer down into there. That needs to be smaller anyhow. Try and make another cut down in there. Pretty clean. Not perfectly clean, that's for sure. Might have to go resharpen that gouge. You don't want to have that. That's an impossible place to sand. Try one other thing with it. Live dangerous. Do it with the skew rather than the gouge once. Also a really good place to have a issue, like right there. Not used to undercutting something with the skew. Now cut the right part of it, the part that wanted to stand up, so I'll just finish it the rest of it with that. And we'll have to redo our chamfer. I think I'm going to live with that. So I've been making these about 3 inches long. Yeah, we're going to stick with that number. You know, this material is a little bigger than what I had been using, but I'm sure it's going to get down to that level before we go getting too far into it. Yeah, I think we'll switch back over to our 1/2 inch spindle gouge. I didn't sharpen either one of these, so that's probably something we should do. I'd use them the other day, but little V cut to establish where it's going to stop. Curve that in. So probably about there is going to be the bottom of the cove. So a nice big V cut. Guess I should drill a hole. Guess it would make more sense if I put it back overhead too. Just a drill bit on a chuck, or not really a chuck. It's a drill chuck head. I did not. Really? Are we going to do that again today? It's supposed to show me both chats. God dang it. Huh. That's interesting. I did not. Repeat his question for me, dude. It doesn't even show up on my end, which I don't understand. Okay. These are weed pots, Al. If you watched me the other week, I made a pretty good handful of these, and so far they're very popular. So we got to go back and make some more of these. Trees. Well, one of them is supposed to be going to the shorts. I had really good luck with that a while back, but something changed. But you can answer a question for Billy. You can stream in multiple places, and YouTube will actually let you stream in vertical and horizontal at the same time, which is what it's supposed to be doing right now. For real? Oh, well, how do you like them apples? Let me see if I can just end one. That's why I'm not seeing the chat. We'll be back to the drawing board on that. So let's see if we can. Oh, I was thinking about that. Oh, that's beautiful. And actually, now it went blank on my screen. Isn't that beautiful? Maybe we'll start to open that one back up. Now we're back to that. Now it's probably froze. Okay, it didn't freeze. Okay. All right. I can see I got more work to do. Work to do on that one. Okay. We're just gonna keep on going. I have no idea. Okay, the one versus spalted wood is going to take a little bit more sanding than I like, but I think it's going to look pretty. I think we'll leave it at that. So just a little extra sanding we'll have to do. Okay, well, I'll be able to see it when I'm done anyhow, I think. There's one thing when it's spalted and it doesn't like to cut clean, overly clean. It does sand very quick and easy like. Because that part that doesn't want to cut clean is very soft. So that should work for us. Yeah, I think that's going to have a bit of character to it. One word written, we'll call it good. Yeah, it is. And this is actually some very old wood. Went down to my shed looking for some stuff for really more so trees than this, but found this and said, "Whoa, I don't want to waste that good wood on a tree when I can use it to do weed pots. So as usual, we'll go back to our Perfects super glue, finish it. Spalted. So I'm going to use the 3460, a little thicker. It should work a little better. These actually weren't even out of a branch. They were out of a bigger piece, at least what I could see of it. And this stuff, I think this was marked for like the year 17. So it's very dry. That's also why I went to the 3460 as well, because it's going to sort of soften in places that'll help us soak in more. Like up in here, you see it wants to become dry very quickly, which is soaking it in, which is what I want it to do. Get it unstuck from my finger. And we'll dry it off. That's what you call one weed bot. Done. I like to see. I sort of like these quick and easy projects. You got other things to do, but so we can just sit that one off to the side and move on. It does have some character to it. I'll give my daughter a challenge as to what color flowers it wants to be. Wants in it. It's always good because I kind of made the statement that she could have the proceeds from these. Probably wasn't my best idea ever. Seeing how we've made, how many have we made? Made 4 the first time. One of them is still left. Made 4 the second time. I guess they're all gone. I'm gonna go touch up this spindle gouge quick. I like using my little one, so this is kind of one of the few tools that I usually don't even bother taking out of the handle because the handle's only about 7 or 8 inches long. I guess if I would have been smarter than the average bear, I'd have just brought the half-inch one along with me. A little foot travel in between. Not that big of a deal. Not one of them professional wood turners that has the grinder sitting right beside her lathe. Primarily because I don't have enough room. clean. Take a little bit more heel away. That should be good. Now we're ready. Back to there. Oh, I guess I should. Somebody should yell at me. Take your face shield off, dummy. You don't like to look through my head. My apologies. I can't seem to remember that to save my life. Okay. Back to the situation at hand. Clean up our face. Over to there. A little concave. See whether this one's going to cut clean or not. Probably not. It's out of the same board. That was not too bad. It's a plus. Well, here, might as well drill the hole. Maybe not quite as deep as the last one. Probably would be a really great idea to actually slow that down a bit too, but we didn't. And go back overhead, and since we're not doing it in vertical, let's bring this in to where it's up close and personal. Vertical side will probably look terrible, but you're telling me we're not doing anything in vertical, so won't make much difference. Just like the last one, same for this edge. This one's going to be shorter than the other one. I think this total piece is 3 inches long with the tenon. Yeah, that might give us a bit of a design opportunity. Mm, all right. I think that one's going to be a little short and stocky. It should look all right though. I think. Back a little further. I think that will work. Yes. So what I'll do is sand this up, and then I'll reverse it, put it into a dead center on this end to drive it, and a live center on the other end. I'll round that down over and cut some of the evidence away down there. To give you an idea on this, that would be how I would actually finish the bottom of these at that point anyhow. So sanding we will go. A woodturner's favorite pastime. I don't think we still need to start with 180. And we could get away with a little bit less, but doesn't appear that to be the case. Definitely one thing with the small projects like this that doesn't take long to make them. It's less time yet to sand them as long as your tools are sharp and you're cutting properly. My kind of projects. Lots of character in this little piece too. I like. All right. So we'll need your dust collector on at this point. So we'll use a dead center to drive. I still have a mark in the end of this. So we'll bring our live center up into that. And then we'll see whether we have this gentle touch tonight. This is a very minimal drive. It's actually very good practice, I think, too. You can't make no big hogging cuts. Why are you not centered? That should be perfectly centered unless that drill hole is not perfectly centered. That could be. I was doing a little bouncing around on me. It's definitely not what we planned for, but we're just going to have to live with that. We'll just make it round. Not a very nice curve. That looks a little better. Make sure we got an undercut, which we should. So I'm going to sand that a little bit. And then I'll reduce that some more. Wouldn't really totally have to, but just make life easier. I guess if you really wanted to, you could probably do just drill the hole and go right between centers, right from this. Well, you'd have to chamfer that in on the top part, but this will work. Unless you were the one sitting here watching me do it, you'll never know that it's not truly round. And make sure I get up far enough on it though that I get rid of some of that. Can leave a line where that was at. Almost looks like there's even a tiny little crack in there. It'll fill in with the super glue, so I'm not really concerned about it failing. So we'll get rid of more of this. Okay, that should be that. Throw a bit of finish on there, and we'll be good. Need to get another roll of paper towels. I'm getting low on supply. So I have to switch over to do something that doesn't require finishing. Right after we get more paper towels. Same as the last one, 3460. And just get around that edge of that top. Then once I take it off, I'll do the top edge. And I cut the bottom off, completely off after the fact, then I'll just put a little bit on the bottom and we'll call it a day. And that won't be today. I don't normally do that till the next day. Let this totally cure, set up. Dry off the excess. That's got some pretty cool looking character in it too. I'm almost impressed with that. That's what I was looking for. That's why I went down to my shed to investigate some of this stuff. I found some that actually had some ambrosia in it too. Just we're going to give it a double shot. Stay away from that end. And I should do it the proper way and put the second glove on. I'm going to pull this off and I'm going to put a little bit of the super glue on the top as well. That's kind of strange. Let's sit there. Oh, that's good boy. So just some on the end grain. It'll soak it right in, I'm sure. End grain normally does. A little more. Almost disappears before I can even start smearing it around. That's enough. It's filled up enough of those pores right there at the top to take care of it. So, number two, little weedy. I guess we're going to have to just give up on this vertical streaming thing. Either do it one way or the other, because I was doing good with it for a while, but like I say something changed. I don't think I changed anything, but maybe it's, I don't know. Don't know. Okay. Hate to keep doing the same thing over and over. I think we won't. This is actually some more of the stuff that's semi-spalted. Should make an interesting looking tree. So we'll just do kind of half-ass centers, close enough. You could even guess on them, and it would be close enough. It certainly isn't superior bandsaw kind of work, even though I did most of this, I think, with the fence, but I think that blade probably has seen its better days. Not quite like the one the other day. I normally use the 3/8 inch wet wood blade from Carter and Son. They seem to last a long time. But, this has some cracks in the top or in that end, so I guess we're going to make that the top, so they'll hopefully go away. Uh, these are longer. These are probably yeah, 7.5. So we'll get about a 7-inch tree out of that, something like that. Hopefully some of the character stays behind. I think it will. At least that's the hope and plan. I don't know. Back to my favorite spindle roughing gouge, aka the tool that everybody hates because they don't want to put the time into learning you. These things might be a bit of a kind of a bit of a pain in some ways to make all the time, but people seem to like them. An ornery piece of wood, though. We got an uneven spot in the middle somewhere. Yeah, right there. That's going to have a little bit to it. The shame them cracks are there. I'd use that as the top or the bottom rather than the top, but well, win some, you lose some. Pretty nasty crack. I'm going to go pretty fairly deep, I think. So this is going to be my gripping point down here. So we'll run a taper. We're going For me, I find the skew is actually the easiest way to make a long taper on something like this. Don't have enough down here. Drop my tool rest just a shade. As it gets smaller down there, I'm going to need a little bit more. I want to cut from about 10 or 11 to 11 o'clock off the end, and when we get below that, then it wants to go up into that 12 o'clock region. It doesn't. Doesn't always cooperate very well up there. Now we can just sort of blend. There'll be one final cut, top to bottom. Off the end, preferably without hitting the live center, of course. This end is not very straight, so I'll straighten it up a little bit first. And I'll use a skew to make my tenon. Last thing I do is just roll it over a little bit on its side. Get rid of that sharp corner and that sharp corner. This is a cutting edge on the side of a skew, so it will cut. In case you've never used it that way. Feels like I still got a tiny little flat there. I'm not going to worry about that. A little bit of a correction right there. That's not exciting, but it'll work. So could have been a bit smaller. It'll work though. Get it back centered in the live center before I tighten it up. See how bad we're off. It's within reason, except for that flat spot. And I think we'll get rid of that flat and make another tapered cut. This tree might get to be a little long. So skinny is what it is. Waste wood. So that should work. Find my little trusty little marking gauge. Short enough? Barely. This kind of shows that I do this way too often. So I made up a little gauge for it. Right. Ooh. That's just barely making it. I can't change anything. That'll be okay. I'll have to go to the short one. Didn't get it quite tight. Can't have it messing something up. Just have to move the tool rest a little more often, that's all. A little bit more gentle because we're not being a little aggressive on that, so we're not getting quite the clean cut that I should. Flatten off our little area here. Little V cut on both sides. Into there. Little round, sort of roundish ball on the top. Stop and look at that. Okay. Well, there's a little bit fuzzed up on it, but I'm not going to get too excited about it. Half a bead. Small parting tool. You could do it all with a spindle guys if you wanted to. A little left-handed turning to get underneath the top. It has to be slightly undercut, since that's the way I make them. A whole lot of rinse and repeat kind of work. And I do leave the life center in as long. I will do it almost the whole thing before I get rid of the life center. Remove that last little bit down there. Just goes a little easier. More support I can have. Actually, sort of the more aggressive I can be. Let's see whether this is cutting clean. Yep, hard enough down in that area that it's cutting clean. I didn't make a very good cove. So we'll make one more little cut. A little hesitation there or something. Definitely not very exciting kind of work for somebody to watch. Not very exciting work to do, period. Come on. All right. Knock the edge off already or something? This is one of the projects in my 4-session class that I had the people do. It is very entertaining. Some of them get it by the end, but working my gouge too hard. It's actually it'll get warm. All that repetitive motion and cutting. I'm just looking as to what I'm gonna have. Looks like I got enough. And then I'm going to get my texturing tool. I've been giving them a little texture on the bottom. And the question is, can I put my fingers on it easily? So what I use on here is the Wagner knurling tool. Wants to be cutting somewhere close to center. And the speed is nice and slow. 400 or 500 RPMs is more than enough. And be patient and let it do its job. And we'll move over one time. That should have gave us a nice embossed edge, which it did. So that'll work. We'll cut it off a little short of that. I will dot. Yeah, I'll dye that too. Back down here, just bottom end, we'll cut it free. See how badly it wobbles when it cuts free? Not too bad. Nice clean, one little glass clean cut across there. The extent of my sanding is knocked those razor sharp edges off. As if we did our job correctly. Clean cut sharp tool. Those little edges right there are very sharp, as well as this one right here will be very sharp. That character on one side. Definitely sit on the shelf looking that direction. Now, glove. Paper towel. Too lazy to get the brush out. Little chocolate brown dye. And our paper towel. We'll just wipe over that edge. Try not to make a mess. Actually might be a better way of doing these than with the brush. I want to get it the whole way down into the texture though. A little extra pressure will take care of that. I feel it just kind of gives them a different look for me. It is an alcohol base, so I'm going to unfold the paper towel, put it over the edge of the trash can so that we don't do any kind of that spontaneous combustion thing. Give it a burnish. Helps to set it off quicker. Also pulls some shellac off. This stuff has some shellac in it. Not that that really matters in this case. Don't need my glove either. Never a good thing to work with a glove on. Even these Nurgle gloves, they will, if it gets a hold of them, they won't, they'll tear when you don't want them to, but when you need them to, and in this case to where it would keep you from getting your fingers smashed or something, then they won't tear. Beeswax and mineral oil, and some carnauba wax in there as well. And we'll go over the whole thing, including the texture part. Generate some heat, melt the wax in. A little bit of mineral oil in there makes this a whole lot easier to get the wax to melt without putting quite as much pressure on it. And fold it and get some clean bits of paper towel to go over it and clean off any excess. A glob of wax right up against the very top of that one. A little bit of a pain. Get the majority of it out of the texture. Looks like I got most of it. The rest of it will soak in anyhow. Just gives it a really nice soft, silky smooth kind of a texture to it. Because otherwise, if I was actually put some on my normal finish on something like that, then I have to come back and buff it. And buffing down into these places, I found that it was more work than what it's worth. Give it a bit of an undercut before I get too far along. Make sure I sand that little edge. There's a pain when you forget to do that and you have to do it by hand. This parting tool is grounded at an angle. It actually matches the dovetail jaws if I wanted something with a tenon on it. I wanted to use a parting tool to do it. It also works very, very well to do this part in here close. And don't try and cut it off clean at the base. I leave a little bit. Leave a little bit of a nub in there Because if I try and cut that, you can see all this gunked up here. That'll end up in the base, so that's just easier to take a little 2-inch disc sander and sand that tiny little bit off and call it good. There we go. Simple tree. People like them. I don't, I don't try and pretend to understand why people like certain things, but that is one of the things that people seem to like. And if you have multiple sizes of the same, sort of the same species, or they don't even need to be the same species. I try and make multiple different heights of trees. That way the people will have a tendency to buy multiples of them, which is always a good thing, usually. What time is it? 7:30. I think we might have more trees to do, but I have to be in the right mood to do multiple ones of them. We might just throw the dry center back on there and just get some ready for another day. A lot of times is how I typically work. I don't necessarily do things one at a time like that, and do multiple pieces, or at least get multiple pieces ready to go. I think this is actually more of the same stuff. Do multiples at a time like that. I'm not spending the time to take the drive center out, get the chuck on, do all that stuff. This way I can do all these at one time, or do a bunch of them at one time, and then they're ready to go. Well, if I have just that little bit of time or whatever, and I want to do something in here, then I can just throw one of these on and go at it and be done 20 minutes later or something like that and call it good. Also not very exciting kind of thing to watch. But it's all part of wood trimming. Can't keep just doing the same steps over and over. That's a really lovely cut for the bandsaw. Close my drawer so that I don't end up with a drawer full of chips. Always helps to make sure that the tool rest is tight. Gap getting big. Time. Didn't want to get round down there. Guess that should work. Not a real lot of character to that piece. Some there. The rest of it was just kind of plain. But it doesn't seem to matter. Sure, the really interesting looking wood would attract somebody's attention quicker, but won't be overly exciting, but it'll work. So I'll just get a couple of these ready for the next go around. Oh, this is going to be fun. This one's already what you call very much tapered. There's a little knot hole coming through there. That all going to go away. So if you watch any of Richard Raffin's, he talks about being able to do this by eye. It does work. You can get very close, which is kind of surprising. This one's going to be all out of wonky because of the one side, but it will work. See if I can take a big chunk out of there. Getting weak tonight. I'm not getting that tight. Still haven't got past that knot. Just by the way it's sounds in here. We're close enough to round to make our taper. Probably enough. A little chatter marks in here. All this edges, all that square edges has a tendency to knock the edge off a little bit quicker. Just switch over to one that's nice and sharp. Get a little chatter out of that for some reason. Pushing too hard for one. That's some, oh, the crack's still not going. Shoot. Well, how do you like them apples? Mm. Mm. We'll taper that down a little bit more and see. I don't think it's going to go away. Nope. Can feel it, hear it. Oh, that's a bummer. This is going to be a really short tree then. So, right about there. Mm. I might just leave that alone for the moment. Can't really see how deep that crack goes. So it would finish there. See if I can see where it comes off the end. We might be able to salvage that. Be nice if we could. Try and get rid of all the sharp edges. It's got some nice character to it. Hopefully it doesn't disappoint. If I could find out a little bit. It's actually going to work. A little bit left of it. That'll work. Looks like we should have just went for the gusto and put it right in the truck and went to town on it, but another day. Actually has some stripes in it, little dark spots. The other side's pretty plain though. Not necessarily the style that they usually make right there, but I can change that. But that one will work. At that note, I think we're going to call it a day. Go back and watch some more videos and try and figure out what I'm doing wrong with the dual stream thing. So until next time, everybody have themselves a wonderful week. And we will be back next Sunday night. Maybe some other evening this week too, but we'll find out. If I get this dual streaming thing figured out, I'll probably have to try it again. So, till then, everybody have a good week.